My name is Keith, and I'm the technical consultant with Ecquaria. And thank you so much for joining us for this third session of the day. So before I begin, may I know who started their career in the IT as a developer? Can I have a show of hands? That's great. Because for this session, it really relates to developer. Alright, so in the recent years, we have actually have this buzzword coming out, CI/CD, DevOps, DevSecOps. Actually, 15 years ago when I was a developer, we also have this type of buzzword, having this continuous step work, but just not as glamorous. So, let me bring you on to the passage of time, back to the days when we were a developer, alright? So, we actually also have continuous development. Back then, we actually don't have really good IDE. Probably sometime you will be using your TextPad to do your web programming, right? Yeah, and that we call it the continuous development. And we have another team of tester, and they are the one that test what we have developed. And they keep on doing continuous manual testing. Okay, now this is the point. There's some contention usually happen between the developer and the tester, right? Yeah, so then the next thing, after what we have all do our testing, and then we get it deployed to production, and then we usually have some surprise. And then no matter how hard we test, how in-depth we test, so as human as we are, we always left out something that it was explored during the production. And that brings us on to the next and the final continuous punishment. So this is something that we, as a developer, we usually went through, and that is something really not good at all. So fast forward to today, technology advances, and we really have a better tools that help us. So kind of think of it. Last time we used washing board. Today we use an industrial grade washing machine, and that let us actually develop nicer, quicker, and better. And next, with a CI/CD pipeline, it let us actually, when we check into our codes, we do not need too much of a manual testing. That's why CI/CD actually came about. And with a continuous integrations and continuous testing. So with all this in place, rightfully, the product coming up will be better tested, and you have a better product deployed at the end of the day. Okay, so as what my first slide has been mentioning, there is something that is missing here. What is missing here? Is there anybody? Because I got actually one present, an airport wannabe to give away. No, no punishment. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. This is your present. Thank you so much. Yes, this is security. This is something that we actually always overlook during the course of our development. And typically, in a standard traditional, software development life cycle, we usually put the security scan at the last tail end of the development. And usually, the third-party audit will come to do the security scan and all these things. And you will just realize that, you will saw all the bugs and the vulnerables all happening at this moment. And at this tail end, you just realize that you have 1 or 2 months to go live. So usually, what the team will be facing, they are really like the jack, in the Titanic. The whole body, everybody will be actually sinking in the sea. And that is something that is not very desirable, especially in the days today. So there is this DevOps engineer turned celebrity, and then she came on with a new word, and we actually focus on her word on it, and that's Jessie J. So she actually calls to everybody, look to the left, but actually I kind of changed it to shift to the left, and she actually made a mistake in the lyrics. It's really all about the money, money, money. Why? Because for security breach, it actually costs your organization money loss, and not forgetting the tarnish in the image and the reputations, and all the things that you have to answer to the public. And hence, why shift left is a good practice. By shifting left, a lot of people say about shifting left. Shifting left is actually about the security scan being pushed all the way back to the beginning. Alright, so you really have to have this mindset of having this security check in the first phase where you're actually doing the design. The second phase when you're actually doing the development. And now, okay, one thing bad about the developer nowadays is after we implementing all this CI/CD with security in place, the developer himself must be also know that whatever I program cannot be just work only. We must think about how to develop in a secure manner with the best practices. And with this, everything will be actually falling into place. And by the time that you go into the last phase, which is third-party audit, it actually somehow or rather 80% perhaps should be secure. And then you have a lesser risk to do all the you know the scrambling for activities to make it stable and secure. But now, having said all this, is it really at the end of the day and we are going to celebrate? Actually, the answer is, well, still not yet. We know that for all that I have talked earlier, we are actually only touching on the continuous integration portion. And what about the continuous deployment? All right, and not just continuous deployment. We are talking about how to make it as automated as possible. And finally, the continuous monitoring, or what we call day 2 ops. And with all these three all together, then we will have a complete bug that can light up. All right. So actually, Ecquaria came to know about this. We actually embraced DevSecOps, and the past 3 years, we actually developed our own tool for it, and we actually use it for our own internal product development. So as you can see, we actually, over the years, we have pulled in a few popular tools that we actually use it internally and advocate it and practice it internally within ourselves. So this is the tools that we actually make use of. Okay, there are actually 3 points that I just want to bring a highlight to you all. First, for these CI tools, you may also wondering that actually GovTech have shipment hacks. Alright, so for this course, we are not actually doing what we call direct competition, but rather which we're actually complementing on doing a CI/CD. Why? Because for this, we are actually platform agnostic. So if you want to do it on-prem, on your DC, or on the cloud, we are able to do so. Alright, then the second point that I just want to highlight is perhaps right now you might have some tools within here, or perhaps you might have a functional testing that is using Tosca. We are actually using Catalan here, but if you want to actually adopt our CI/CD toolchain, but somehow or other you do not like Catalan, yes, we are able to actually help you to replace it, of course, with some man effort involved, right? And so subsequently, we talk about the CI, and then we want to talk about the CD and the CM. And that is where we just want to piece up all the missing puzzles for a good software development lifecycle, which is continuous deployment using the automated way. And Ecquaria identified that during our course of integrations with projects and product, we cannot just have a good CI tools. We must make it as automated as possible. That is why we actually came out with our Ecquaria Docking Service, and what we also call EDS in short. So this is a very typical, FM that they have to went through. For any project deployment, we will have to go through this manual cycle: where to deploy, what to deploy, when to deploy, how to deploy, and the worst part is how to roll back. Then typically, we will write them a list of action, what you have to do, what you have to observe, who you have to do. And I do not know about you, no matter how experienced you are, no matter how good you are, usually my face will actually cramp up, like Jim Carrey. So this is something that we don't want at this time era, that we still goes back to all this type of, manual activities. Hence, with EDS, so this is just the, the landing page of how EDS is look like. So with EDS, once the CI, the CI pipeline, after they do the integrations, the build, they can be automatically be pushed into EDS, as you can see here. It can be pushed automatically. You do not need to do manual upload or whatsoever. And if you look at the section here, you can actually come in, your ATFM or your DevOps engineer can actually come in to take a closer look at how it actually looks like. So if you look at this particular deployment package in detail, on the top, it can actually do a short description of what this deployment is all about and what is going to be changed. So they can know actually what's going on. The second, if you look at this section, this is something that we actually do it quite nicely. That means, for example, for a very typical deployment, we are not talking about just deploying a WAR file or a year file in the past. So for this, we may have SQL scripts. We may have to drop some table to update some fields. And then perhaps we might have to change some config files here and there in the web server or in the app server or for your bash job. And we still have to wait for the instance to be up and running before we can deploy another. So this type of sequence is something that cannot be, mumbo jumbo up. We have to really go through this sequence. If not, your deployment will have some exception. So with this, we actually helps you to do all these things in a sequence manner without having to have a DBA standing there to do the DB updates, server engineer to do the configuration files, and then your other engineers to do the final web deployment. All can be done in just one platform. All right. So, of course, having a good audit trail and a history file lets you keep track of what has been done, when have been done, and this is something that you guys might be really keen on to it. So, as we have said, we want to make things as convenient as and automated for you guys. That is why, with all this, if you can look into it, this is just, if you step into the things, you can even see what are the scripts that is. And with just a single click deployment, you can achieve all of this with just one engineer. You do not need one whole drink gang to go around places to do one deployment. All right. So what's next? After when we go deployment, typically as an engineer, I know when we do deployment, we will be very afraid. After it go live, will something happen or not? That's something, we are always very scared of. So that brings us to day 2 ops. After we deploy, we must be able to sleep at night soundly and wake up happy. All right. So we built in a monitoring tool that helps you for your day 2 ops. What I mean by day 2 ops? Okay, for example, with EDS, you are able to monitor the status of the containers, the nodes, right down to, if you look at it, green depicts that it's actually running well and healthy. All right, and then we can also be monitoring the container health, how long has it been up and healthy for how long. And we can even drill down to the details of the memory, the CPU usage, and all these things presented to you in charts. And of course, there may be some things that you just want to set a threshold to keep you updated of whether the services is going through the roof or is just underutilized. And all these things that we can set an alert and write to notify on your mailbox. And all these things, finally, we can have a whole suite of solutions, not just one of it. So, Ecquaria DevSecOps stacks our CI/CD, right? And then coupled with our EDS, and it can allow you to spin off all your digital service easily. Spin up, scale out, or spin down easily just with the EDS control. Oh yeah, I just kind of missed it. For our CI/CD pipeline, right now, we are really geared towards forward-looking. That means our pipeline is really geared towards microservice and containerized environment. If you guys have a monolithic architect or projects that you may actually want one day to find us to help you to do all this pipeline, we are able to do so. But perhaps you might be using other technologies like Ansible for you to do your monolithic deployment. And then with all this digital service deployed, And as what Mark have mentioned, with the EIC, you can actually go places and interact with all your, for example, MyInfo or your SAML gateway and all these things. And then finally, this is what I meant by closing the gap and covering from the top to the bottom, from end to end. And after all this, I will be actually showing you all, my colleague Yu Kiang will be showing you just a little bit of how EDS look like and how we can play with EDS. Right, over to you, Yu Kiang.
Okay, so my name is Yu Kiang. Okay, I'm actually a technical consultant with Ecquaria. So for my portion of my presentation to you guys, I will be taking you through what we call the Ecquaria Docking Services demonstration today. Okay, but before I begin, okay, I would like to show you guys a high-level context of what our DevSecOps process actually look like. Okay, so if you refer to this diagram, okay, it's actually, you will find it very familiar. It's actually shown during Ken's keynote presentation just now, earlier. Okay, so this is actually Ecquaria's proposition, okay, of how our CI/CD pipeline works. Okay, and at the same time, how our in-house product, Ecquaria Docking Services, okay, can actually help you guys, okay, to achieve an end-to-end process of actually deploying applications seamlessly and efficiently. Okay, so I understand that there are a lot of things happening, okay, in this diagram, but to break it down for you guys to easily understand, okay, the Ecquaria CI/CD pipeline, okay, is actually broken down into two main chunks. Okay, with that, the first chunk is the build pipeline, and the second chunk is the release pipeline. So without further ado, I would like to dive into the build pipeline. Okay, so what you see here, okay, so in the build pipeline, there are a lot of things happening. Okay, so from the point that the developer, okay, has completed their source code, okay, and is ready, and this source code is ready for deployment. So the developer will actually check in the source code into the repository, and once that action has happened, okay, the entire continuous integration pipeline set of executable tasks, okay, will actually commence automatically. Okay, and all these tasks will help you to build, scan, test, and eventually package, okay, your raw source code into a build deployment package. And with this build deployment package, it can actually be passed towards the QA gate, as you can see on the right-hand side of the pipeline. Okay, and this is where your QA engineer, okay, can take this build deployment package, okay, to commence their quality assurance test. Okay, so in order, right, to help you better visualize how it actually looks like, okay, let me show you what I have for you today. Okay, so for the continuous integration pipeline, okay, we will be using Jenkins. Okay, so once you log into Jenkins, right at the bottom, okay, immediately you will be able to see a series of executable tasks. Okay, and the continuous integration portion comes in right from the point, okay, where the source code is being checked out from the repository all the way, okay, to this part, okay, where the build deployment package is passed to the QA gate. And throughout this entire pipeline, there's a lot of activities that are happening right here. Okay, and all of these activities are actually done for you automatically. So I'm going to name you some of the activities. Things like we have static code analysis, we have open source vulnerability checks, we have build image security scans, we have automated testing, so on and so forth. Okay, and in each activity, okay, we do have a specific software tool in this entire tool chain that helps you to achieve all these checks and scans automatically. Okay, so if you guys remember, okay, earlier on in during Keith's presentation, okay, he emphasized a lot, okay, about what security, right? So since security is actually a key concern, okay, in our CI/CD process, okay, we have for Ecquaria, we have actually noted that concern, okay, and we have incorporated the essence of security in our entire CI pipeline. So let me name you a few instances. So example, okay, if you look at static code analysis right here, okay, we are actually using, okay, a software tool called SonarQube. Okay, so just ignore the 00. Okay, so in the actual environment, when you run this, there should be some numbers. Okay, so after you run your use SonarQube to run on your source code, okay, it actually helps you to perform code quality analysis and actually helps you to identify, okay, all the bugs and all the vulnerabilities that are in your source code. So, and it will actually also be able to generate a report. So with this report, right, your developers, okay, can actually immediately provide rectification on the source code, okay, to strengthen the quality of it and as well to harden it in any way that they require to. Okay, so and this is just one of the instance. Okay, OWASP, okay, dependency check tool. Okay, and the OWASP dependency check tool actually performs a security vulnerability scan, okay, on all your open source libraries that your application source code is using. Okay, so that's another example of security. Okay, then last but not least, okay, I would like to talk about the build image and security scan. Okay, so for this particular task, right, in the CI pipeline, we are using a software tool called Claire. Okay, so for Claire, right, it's actually a container security scan tool. So what it does is that it scans all the layers of your Docker image, in this case, your Docker, okay, and it will identify if there are any, it will ensure, okay, that whatever that is being packaged into this Docker image or this container image, right, is free from any security vulnerabilities. So from here, from what I just mentioned, based on these three instances, you guys will immediately understand, okay, that security is very, very important to us also, okay? And of course, there are many other things, okay, that we can talk about in this CI portion of the entire pipeline, okay? But in the essence of time, okay, I will not be covering everything here, okay? So if you all have any further questions about the CI portion of this pipeline, okay, do feel free to approach any of us later. We will be happy to share with you also. Okay, so moving on, right, to the next part of the okay, so moving on to the next portion, okay, of our CI/CD pipeline will be what we call the release pipeline. Okay, so when does this happen? Okay, so after the QA engineer, okay, has maybe let's say a QA team, okay, has completed, okay, their set of quality assurance tests, all your test cases have actually passed. Okay, so this is when, okay, the entire build deployment package will be passed down to this release pipeline, and this is where your release manager, okay, will come in, okay, and actually approve, okay, this build deployment package, and this is where the deployment package will be pushed towards Ecquaria Docking Services, or EDS in short. Okay, so let me show you something simple for you to understand. Okay, here. Okay, so let me log in again. Okay, so so this is actually a give me a moment. I have to zoom a bit. To see the pipeline. Okay, never mind. We are not able to see this portion due to some reason. Okay, I'll just show you here. Okay, because the other Jenkins link that I actually logged in, right? Okay, is we have actually narrowed down the part just for you all to easily understand. Okay, but I will just show you guys what we have here. Okay, so after the QA gate, right? Okay, you just have to bring your focus to these two actions. Okay, so after the release manager, okay, has approved the build deployment package, okay, the entire build image, okay, will be actually tagged to that particular repository, okay, that you are trying to perform the deployment to. So in this case, in this particular example that I'm going to show you today, we're actually trying to do a UAT deployment. Okay, so we're actually trying to tag to the UAT repository. Okay, and subsequently, then you will be pushed towards EDS. Okay, so at this point, right, you guys might be wondering, okay, pass towards EDS, what happens? What does EDS actually do? Okay, so assuming, okay, so for Ecquaria Docking Services, right, this software is mainly used by your ATFM. Okay, so let's say, example, I were to log in. Okay, all of these screens should somewhat seem familiar to you at this point. Okay, so once your ATFM has logged in, okay, this will be the landing page. Okay, let me just zoom in so that you guys can see. Okay, so immediately on the landing page, right, you will be provided with a simple and easy to understand dashboard, which showcases all the projects, the environments, okay, your node classes and nodes. In this case, your node classes and nodes refers to your VMs, okay, and as well as your stacks, which essentially refers to all the services that are currently running for your application, okay, and immediately on the left-hand side of the screen right here, okay, you will be able to have a quick access navigation menu to all the key functionalities in EDS, okay. So bring things back into context, okay, you as an ATFM, you are trying to perform a deployment. So once you click on the deployment functionality, okay, you will be given this simple so-called drop-down list. Okay, this drop-down list actually lists down the type of environments, okay, that your ATFM can perform a deployment to. Okay, so this is very important. Why? Okay, meaning that, okay, so in this particular instance, I can access the UAT and production environment. Okay, and as the system owner, okay, or the system administrator, okay, you guys are also able to assign access rights, okay, to your ATFM based on the type of environments that he or she is able to access in this case. Okay, so example, if you only have UAT and production, you should not be able to see a staging environment or let's say, example, SIT environment. You should not be able to see anything like this. Okay, so if you recall earlier, okay, we are trying to do a UAT deployment, right? Okay, so once if you click on production environment, okay, you will notice, okay, let me zoom down. Okay, you will notice that but rather if you click on UAT, immediately, okay, you will see UAT deployment number 67, tag to number 67 being pushed into EDS. Okay, and on top of that, okay, you'll be able to review, okay, certain details, okay, certain additional details of your deployment before you actually perform the action. Okay, so let me give you a bit of context of what we are trying to deploy right here. So in UAT deployment number 67, let's say, for example, we are trying to deploy a new digital service for food license application. Okay, and at the same time, in this digital service, okay, we are trying to upgrade your API service to 19.04.2. Okay, and on top of that, we are also trying to make some simple form changes for the ROB service, or you can call it registration of business. Okay, and if before the actual deployment, okay, if you try, okay, to access the so-called link here, give me a moment. Okay, if you're trying to access the demo environment which we have created here for the food license application service, okay, you will immediately notice a 502 back gateway. Okay, this means, okay, that the digital service has not been deployed yet. Okay, so on top of that, okay, for this particular deployment, like what Keith mentioned earlier, in a deployment, there will always be a series of executable tasks, series of files that your ATFM has to prepare or execute before the deployment can be successful. So in this case, you have your SQL files, you can also have like your health checks on your services, you can also have your configuration files. Okay, so Keith also mentioned that you can easily, okay, step into any, okay, of these files, okay, to actually, your ATFM is actually able to review, okay, all these coding. So in this food license application, you're trying to execute two new tables, create two new tables in your database. Okay, so this function is actually very useful because before the actual deployment, you don't want to toggle, you know, do too many context switching to make sure all your files that you're trying to deploy is all correct. So what EDS does is it's able to you know, bring everything together in one single platform so that you can easily do your checking. Okay, so without further ado, I will not keep you guys waiting. Okay, we can just start on the deploy. Okay, so while waiting for the deployment, okay, to run the traditional manual deployments. Okay, so in traditional manual deployments, right, your ATFM, okay, will be required. You imagine you have this stack of files, this stack of maybe like 10, 15 files, depending on the scale of the deployment they are trying to do. Okay, he has to actually log in and log out multiple times across different virtual machines, okay, just to execute, let's say, your database scripts might be, in your database server. Then your configuration files might be, like, say, somewhere in your web server. So you toggle in, toggle out, toggle in, toggle out. So all these actions, okay, can be very tedious, can be very time consuming, okay, and most importantly, okay, it can be very error prone. Okay, so we as Ecquaria, we thought about it, okay, and we realized that, hey, this is the better way to do it. Okay, so with EDS, okay, all your ATFM has to do, like what Keith mentioned, is a one-click deployment. And once you click on this deploy button, everything is run automatically at the background for you. Okay, EDS is able to execute your SQL scripts. EDS is able to run your health checks for your services, your configuration files for you. Okay, then okay, so while the deployment is still running, okay, I would like to show you, okay, some additional functionalities, okay, that are available in EDS also. So if we mouse over here and you take a look at the stacks function, okay, you will notice that, okay, under earlier on I mentioned that we are, for the food license application, okay, we are trying to upgrade, okay, the API service to 19.04.2. Okay, so immediately on the screen right here, you will see that the EGP API service, okay, has two instances of the tasks running. Okay, one will be demarcated, task number one will be demarcated in orange, and the other one, which is task number two, will be in green. Okay, so task number one is currently deploying and upgrading the service to 19.04.2 while task 2 is still running. What this essentially means is that EDS is able to perform upgrading, okay, of your services for your application with no downtime. Okay, so this is just one of the things that I would like to highlight. Okay, and on top of that, okay, if we head back to the deployment functionality, okay, you will notice that EDS will be able to feed your ATFM with various different statuses of your deployment. So while your deployment is actually running, okay, it's normally demarcated in orange, okay, and if it's pushed in, it will be black. And for a deployment failure, okay, which can still happen, it will be in red. And last but not least, okay, for your deployment, successful deployment or a redeploy, okay, you'll be demarcated in green. Okay, so at times, okay, even with EDS, okay, there is still a chance, okay, for so-called human prone errors. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, let's take a look at, I would like to show you a particular example. Okay, so for UAT deployment number 14, okay, what has happened is that this deployment was actually pushed into a deployment attempt was actually pushed into EDS, okay, on 15 August 2019. Okay, but however, okay, when they tried, okay, when the ATFM tried to execute the deployment, okay, it resulted in an error message. And this error actually means that they tried to drop a particular table, okay, but it resulted in some error. Okay, so whenever, okay, EDS encounters error during the deployment will hit an immediate halt. Okay, and the simple error messages will be shown to your ATFM, and from there, okay, your ATFM will be able to know what happened, and you will be able to make that necessary rectification, okay, and perform the redeploy all the way till it is successful. And all of these actions, the good thing is all of these actions, okay, are actually being logged in EDS, and you can see on the left hand side, okay, under the history part, there will be a proper audit trail of all the actions by your DFM. Okay, so okay, so this is just another so-called example I would like to show you. Okay, so on top of automated deployment, like I have mentioned in the past 10 minutes, okay, I would also like to show you, okay, what else EDS has to offer. So On top of deployment, we also have monitoring, which Keith has mentioned. So if you click, okay, on the node level monitoring, okay, so there are actually two levels. One is node level, one is your container level. Okay, let me just zoom out so that you can see. Okay. Okay, so for once you access the monitoring functionality, okay, you will be presented with this very simple and easy to use dashboard. Okay, so on this dashboard, right, your ATFM, okay, will be able to monitor, okay, the number of memory, your CPU cores, okay, your running containers, basically the memory usage and the current health of your virtual machines. Okay, so and you'll be able to flag out to your ATFM, okay, if the nodes are having any issues, so that they will be able to make immediate and quick fix to it. Okay, similarly, okay, for the so-called the container level, okay, we'll be able to also monitor, okay, your services health also. Okay, so you can even click into one of the service right here, okay, and you'll be able to see a simple and easy to use, simple and easy to understand chart, okay, to show you the entire CPU usage history, and whether and for like what Keith said, you can actually set a threshold, so that from the point that it exceeds that threshold, okay, alerts will be sent to you. Okay, so with this monitoring feature in EDS, right, your ATFM need not worry about, what is my current container health, what's the current memory CPU usage, whether is it going to be used up soon, should I flag it out to anyone. So this is just one of the very interesting functionalities that we have here. Okay, so let's bring things back to context again, okay, and revisit the current deployment. Okay, so okay, now, okay, let me zoom in so they can take a better look. Okay, so now, sorry. Okay, if you click on your deployment details, you will immediately notice that on the bottom right, okay, all the files or all the series of executable tasks are now demarcated with a green tick, which means that they are successful. Okay, and there will also be the audit trail, okay, on the left side to tell you at exactly what time, okay, and what date your ATFM has performed the deployment. Okay, so this is just a very simple demonstration, okay, of how EDS performs automated deployment, and I hope you guys will be able to take back something today. And if you all have any further questions, you can let me know. And this concludes my area of the demonstration for today.